a couple of things. The aim of the unit was to understand how businesses, operate, how they are set up, what are the different types of legal entities, and the types of ownerships that we can look at on the basis of how classification of businesses is done. We also looked at different types of businesses, how they operate in primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. Then we understood what is business environment, which is essentially the space or the marketplace in which the businesses operate. Now, because businesses, when we look at private businesses and public sector businesses, charities, they're all set up with some sort of a commercial aim and objective in mind. We are looking at studying this particular unit to understand the various functions which are required to run a business successfully. And these functions started off by, building a bit of understanding on what are businesses, business environment, marketplace, economy, and, some of the key terms like policies, which the government uses in particular to regulate the market and marketplace. We went on to understand the importance of accounting, which is one of the key departments because management of finances, budgeting, and key financial statements which it produces is important. And we looked at that option of understanding in learning outcome 2. Now, after the details of understanding how businesses operate, the business environment, the marketplace, the economic policies which the government can actually use to set set the conditions in which the businesses and the economy of the country can grow, we went into accounting. Accounting, we looked at very basics of accounting first in terms of what is accounting, why is it important for business, what are the statements which are to be produced at the end of the year, how businesses are registered, looking at the ownership types, and depending on that, the company accounts which are produced at the end of the year for submission, and why are these important, for any business. So things like looking at taking out loans, finances, short-term loans, long-term loans, looking at also statements which are required for decision-making for various other types of stakeholders like shareholders, board members, employee staff. And we looked at all that in learning outcome 2. In learning outcome 3, we went into a further few details of the accounting process. And here we went into understanding financial statements in a bit more detail, things like your balance sheet, profit and loss account, retained earnings statements, cash flow statements, and then looking at ratios, the 5 different types of ratios that we discussed, and they are of 16 different types within those 5 broad categories. And how are these used to calculate the, the financial state of the business in terms of profitability, in terms of liquidity. And then we also did an example of budgeting. And I created an Excel sheet, starting from scratch. We created a budget or a budgeting statement, for the company, and then looked at how these statements differ, what information they provide, and how this information can be used by different stakeholders within the organization, whether they are internal, external, whether they are third parties or employees and the management and the board, and how some of these are required to be able to make financial decisions, which is what we understood in learning outcome 3. In learning outcome 4, we went into understanding teams. When we look at working within an organization, business, or a company, there are sometimes, lots of people which work. And obviously, sometimes you're grouped together into teams to be able to accomplish a larger objective. So we understood theoretically from this point in this learning outcome that what is team development? Together we achieve more, which is an acronym, team, full form of the acronym team. And we understood some of the theoretical models like the Tuckman's model of team building, the 5 stages that we go through when team building is done. And then we also looked at Dr. Belbin's, team roles model, in which he's categorized 3 different types of roles. And within those 3 different categories, 9 different roles of, different roles have been defined, which people can end up taking or getting into when they are working together as a part of a team. We also understood motivation theories. So we looked at a couple of them, like Maslow's theory of hierarchy, the theory X and Y, the Herzberg's 2-factor theory, and some of the theories in leadership, which have come up over the years, starting with, 4 basic types: autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire, participative, and then looked at the modern theories of leadership, like transactional, transformational theories of leadership, Adair's leadership model, and some of the handouts which I've shared with you guys to be able to go through in a bit more detail into this particular learning outcome, which is mostly theoretical. So understanding why motivation is required or is required to be maintained by leaders, what kind of leadership qualities people should have, and what are the leadership styles essentially which which we can recognize, and how people in when we look at leaders in particular in the organization, they lead because of, and then they show certain characteristics, and that is where the differentiation in terms of the types of leadership models have happened. Now, this learning outcome was important because we wanted to understand why we need to be motivated in terms of doing our job, in terms of day-to-day basis. Should we be looking at the organization providing things which are going to make the work more conducive and obviously more fulfilling for us? And that is where these motivation theories come in, things like reward structures, incentives, bonuses, or holiday and other such emoluments, things like pension plans, things like healthcare plan, and training and development which the organizations do for their employees and staff throughout the year are basically part and parcel of what the motivation theories and how they are implemented to ensure that people are feeling feeling good about what they do on a day in, day out basis. They feel they are contributing towards the organization, and they also feel that this particular employment of different motivational techniques to keep employees motivated to do their work also helps build loyalty in the long run, and then brings across what is called job satisfaction. So we looked at that in learning outcome 4. Now in learning outcome 5, we dived into understanding human resources department, one of the other functions within the organization, which typically is very important, because this is one such function which basically looks at various activities within the organization, things like recruitment, selection, training, development, compensation, benefits, dealing with the unions, grievances, things like that. So yesterday's learning outcome was focused on understanding the role of HR. If you were to wear the hat of an HR manager or an HR officer, what would be the main functions that you would carry out day in, day out on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis in an organization or a business, and how these functions have to take into account the key legislation, which is basically the rules and regulations which have been introduced by the government, passed in the Parliament as acts, have to be adhered to when you're talking about labor relations, or when you're talking about dealing with the workforce specifically as an HR officer or as a manager. So in this case, looking at various legislative, acts which have to be followed by all companies, all employers, things like the Minimum Wage Act, the Discrimination Act, the Equality and Diversity Act, looking at Health and Safety Act, looking at Data Protection Act, looking at, Disability Act, looking at Working Time Directive. So some of these legislations which are important for employers to be able to follow and implement within the guidelines of the workings of human resources management side of things within an organization were important. And that is what we discussed yesterday. Now, in today's learning outcome, we are going to be looking at focusing on what is called customer service. We need to understand the importance of customer service, which is required for the organizational success. Now, we understand that all businesses, look at producing goods and services or offer some sort of goods and services. Now, in return, when customers buy these goods and services, they in return pay you for these services. They basically, if you raise an invoice, assuming I went to the grocery store and I bought some couple of things like, milk, egg, breads, and things like that. And at the end of it, when I'm at the till, person at the till scans the item and produces a receipt, and I end up paying for that, paying for the goods through a debit card. Now, if you imagine if this was happening for a business, and you were working within the business, say in accounts, and what would happen is that, okay, there is a requirement for buying a photocopier in the office. What you would do as an accounts manager would be essentially looking at taking out different quotations, speaking to different companies, finding out which is the most relevant and the most cost-efficient machine. And then at the end of it, when you decide, you place an order with a particular company, and the company would take a couple of days or weeks to be able to deliver that product to you, come in and install, give a demonstration. And in return, they expect that you pay the invoice promptly for the equipment which has been delivered. Now, if you have taken out an annual maintenance contract on the photocopier machine, then obviously if there are any problems, issues which do arise during the usage of the machine, the company would then be looking at providing suitable engineer services in order to rectify those problems and issues as and when they arise. Now, in this particular example, what you see is that the customer has placed an order, which is a company, and then the another company has then the product, which has then used its products and services that it produces. Say, for example, Sharp, which is a company which produces photocopiers. You place an order with them. The company then delivers the copier to you at the office, in your office, and obviously then in return, it expects you to pay the invoice on time. Now, if they continue to provide you good service, you would stay with them. If you're expanding, you would buy another machine, or you look at some additional services from them, because you're generally happy with the support which the company is able to provide, or the promptness in terms of reverting back to you and providing the support has been great. You've had no problems. The product has been serviced regularly, and the warranty conditions of the products, as what they have been described, have been met by the company. And in this case, you are generally happy with the service which the company is providing. Now, what are the ripple effects of this for the business? One, because you're a happy customer, sometimes if it comes up in conversations with other clients or other customers or other people that you speak to, you would be advocating that, okay, I bought this copier from this company. They are really fantastic. And if you're looking at buying, you should look at trying them out as well. Now, this is what is contributing to what is word of mouth, because of the good customer service the company is offering to you on the product. And because there are no such problems, you become more or less a vocal advocate of that company. And sometimes if these discussions do crop up, or this topic crops up in discussions with other colleagues, peers, or other people that you deal with, you bring this across and you basically say, okay, they're a good company. You should look at considering them if you need to purchase something. Now, this is the importance of customer service. It is not just helping build positive word of mouth. It is bringing a word of brand recall. It is ensuring that the customer who's got the product is feeling good about it, and there's a feel good factor in terms of ensuring that you're generally happy with the product and happy with the services which the company is providing. Now, this is not going to be helping the company in short term, but in the long term, this is going to go very well with the company, because everybody's talking positive about the services which the company provides. It's helping in brand building. It is helping in making, or basically doing a positive word of mouth spread. And then obviously a high recall, which is there in customers' mind, should they think of any other service that they need to buy or can avail from you as a business or as an organization. So customer service is very important to the organizational success. You decide to switch your insurance, you decide to, say, for example, switch your utility provider like gas, electric. Sometimes people shift or move from one provider to the other is because of the fact that they are not happy with the services being provided by their current provider. And in those cases, what you generally look at doing is, okay, I want to move across to another provider because I'm not happy with the service which they provide. And obviously, I think I deserve a bit better. And obviously, you go to a different provider. Now, this is what we are going to be understanding and studying in today's context. Now, 3 main points that we are looking at studying in Learning Outcome 6 is to understand what is customer service, what is the impact it has on customers, repeat business, job satisfaction and morale of the employees within the organization. And we'll also look at what is the process of what is called customer profiling. So when we talk about customer profiling, we are talking about looking into details of, what the customer, preferences are. And we are looking at basically, understanding the needs and requirements of the customer in terms of what they need, what they want, what is the best product which will meet those needs and wants. And those would be classified under what is called customer profiling. So we'll be looking at in detail about the information that you need to get about customer and their preferences, their interactions, and they will help you make a more informed and a justified decision. And you would be able to go back to the customer with an example, a better service or a better offer, and then able to explain the advantages of why you're suggesting this product over the other, And that is why it is very important. And customer profiling in marketing is done using market segmentation. You need to be able to understand what are customer types, and then obviously target those customers basis their preferences, the information that you collect. And then sometimes you would see this, that a lot of companies look at introducing what are called loyalty schemes. One such example, which I'll put forward right now very briefly, would be Tesco's Club Card or the Nectar Points card. So when you shop, every time you shop, because you're shopping and you're buying things from Tesco or Tesco stores, they feel that we need to be able to reward customers. And these loyalty points or cards, which the companies start off at some point in time, they give you, points in terms of which are transferable into literally money. And you receive vouchers at the end of the month or at the end of 3 months in the post to say that you've been shopping. These are the discount vouchers that you can get. And you also get a voucher for a certain amount, depending on how much you've shopped at Tesco's. The same goes for air miles. Sometimes, when you have credit cards and you spend a bit more, you get cash back. And for airline companies, they introduce what is called air miles. And if you travel frequently and you go and complete certain set of traveling miles, then you are eligible for free tickets or free upgrades. And all these are examples of what and how companies look at developing customer loyalty. So today's topic of discussion in terms of the learning outcome is an important one, something which I think all of us can relate to, because we have been a customer for very many different types of organizations, be it insurance companies, if you drive, if you own a home, or when you look at obviously some of you, if you're living with your parents or you own your homes and things like that, you're dealing with utility companies. You go out and shop and you deal with different people, and what we see is glimpses of wherever you go and do shopping or you go about and getting things, you are dealing with different types of organizations. And when they service or provide service to you, they serve you. You go to McDonald's, you go to Subway, and the person serving you at the end of the day, in Pizza Hut, in TGF Fridays, there's a bell which normally I think you guys should recall, or Frankie Benny's essentially. If you're happy with the serving and happy with the food that you've had today, what you could do is ring the bell, and that basically tells everybody that you're happy with the customer service and the food that you had was absolutely great. And this is a way of showing that your appreciation, and in turn, this appreciation is rewarded by the organization to its employees in terms of increased wages, salaries, promotions, whichever way possible. And this all revolves around customer service, which means you're providing great service. The customers are likely to come back to you, and the business is likely to see more business coming from customers. And in the long run, this is going to help build a reputation and a brand for the company. So customer service is very, very important. Now, before we get into the details, let's look at defining a few things. What is customer service? So customer service is assistance or advice that you get when you are in need of maybe getting information or any sort of additional information which you're seeking about a product or a service that you're intending to buy. Example, you go and you're looking at buying a new car. You go to Mercedes, you go to Audi, you go to Volvo, you go to Nissan, you go to Toyota, you go to one of the dealerships of the car, and obviously you go and you might do a test drive. You go and ask for information. You basically pick up a flyer, and assuming there are some questions which are still unanswered and you feel that you need that this information is not available, what you then end up doing is asking one of the customer services executive there or somebody in sales to find out, can I get a bit more information about this particular car, or what features does the model have? And they, in turn, the person who's going to be helping you in the showroom or in the dealership is going to be, providing you a service by talking in detail about the product or the car and the features that you're looking at. And that would constitute what is called customer service. Now, customer service can be of two types: after sales and pre-sales. Pre-sales is when you're intending to buy and you go to the shop, you do a bit of window shopping, you ask a few questions, but you're not made up your mind that you want to buy. But again, there some questions, some queries are still answered by people who are on the front desk or in the sales department, and they would be working with you or giving you additional information, and in terms sometimes also discussing with you or pushing you to say, are you willing to buy, where are you looking to purchase? They ask you some open-ended questions. Now, this part of the customer service, which is focused on helping you understand what is required. It tends to be what is called, customer service, which is before you buy the product. And then when you bought the product and then you have some warranty or guarantee on it, like you buy a car and you have some, 3-year warranty on it, and you're looking at getting it serviced every year. And when the car goes to the showroom or the dealership, and then you get the servicing done for the car, or if there are any faults and problems and you get it diagnosed, and then the company resolves it, this would be looking at providing you after sales service. So customer service, very important. It looks at helping build experiences. Some of the things that we do get to see with Apple, Samsung, what they tend to do is they look at, essentially, when they launch a new product or a phone, they set up these stalls, the kiosks and everything, so that, and then put the handsets and everything in, so that you can come in and actually experience the product. You can see the product, touch and feel the product. And that is where they will then try and interact with you, answer questions, queries, and that would be a customer service that they will provide in order to promote their product, or their promote the sale of their product, help you make your mind up, and by answering your queries, providing you additional information, and that will be pre-sales. Once you bought the product, there's a warranty on it. If you have any problems, you're not happy with it, you take it back to the outlet, you return it, you change the color, you ask for further information, you ask it for it to be serviced, things like that. That would be customer service as well, and that would be after sales service. Now, a business which basically is in the process of selling or producing goods and services and then selling it to customers cannot do without a customer services department. Now, in the case of gas and electric companies, you see customer services being offered through call center services. You have a problem, what you need to be able to do then is, essentially, basically, let's put it this way, that if you are looking at, I was giving an example of, say for example, customer services. So here in this case, what will happen is the business, when it is selling its products, at some stage would need to be able to, look into these products for the purposes of servicing or problems and issues. And that is where customer services department will become important. It's very difficult to say. When I talk about utility companies, which I was giving an example of, you generally see they provide customer services through call center services, because of the fact that the call center services would mean that you are looking at essentially providing certain parts of these services to your clients, and this is being done through the route of you having to let's say deal with the queries, heavy number of queries or lots of queries, and that is being done through the customer call services center. And in some cases, when I look at the utility companies, the gas and electric, they're providing, they've laid down the infrastructure, they are essentially, providing pretty much everything to you. It is getting delivered to your house, the gas and electric part. At some stage, if they need to look at, you have a problem, you have an emergency, or you have an issue, then how do you get in touch with them? You get in touch by calling them up, and they tend to then follow that route through the customer services, which is through the phone call, through the call centers, and they provide that service. Now, just to reiterate what I've discussed, let's look at watching a very small video, which basically will showcase, what is customer services. So let's look at this video and, understand what is customer services. Let me shift you over, and then let's look at this particular short video.
Receive great customer service. As consumers, it makes us feel good. So much so, consumers now rate customer service as the most important factor when deciding to do business with a company. This means the traditional competitive advantages such as price, location, and product are rapidly disappearing. In the technological era, customer service is king. Sad to say, but when it comes to customer service, we've all had a bad experience, and news of bad customer service reaches more than twice as many ears as praise for good customer service. So it's really important to understand and avoid certain behaviours that make our customers angry. In a recent survey, 57% of customers expressed frustration that the company was not available when needed. 56% of customers felt that customer service is still too slow, and 42% ability. The consequences of getting customer service wrong can be very damaging. A massive 89% of customers have reported that they've stopped
So as you can see, basically customer service is very, very important nowadays. And this video is slightly old. It's about 2015. And when it mentioned 20 million, complaints were made, I think the scale of, if you do a quick Google search, you will see about 119 million complaints were made using social media. If the customers felt that, they haven't received the type of service or the quality of service they were expecting to receive from the company after a purchase of a good. Now, there are lots of different things that we need to focus on, but keeping in mind that we are looking at going through some parts of the indicative content in the learning outcome, let me just quickly highlight what are the key 4 principles of customer service. Now, the key 4 principles of customer service revolve around most companies looking at providing exceptional customer experience, and which is where these 4 principles come in handy. The first principle basically looks at all companies are where they are because of their customers. If they don't buy their products, don't buy their services. If the company doesn't have customers, the business will go bust. Now, customer service is also provided because they want to make it easy for the customers to be able to find information. And then one of the reasons of the customer service department being set up in a business or an organization is also to make sure that every time the information is asked, the same consistent type of information is provided to customers with the aim of helping the customers to reach or help make a decision. And then if you look at any particular sale, any particular opportunity wherein a sale is done, a service is provided, a product is bought, you would generally see that at some stage, in order to close the loop, the handover or the taking over of the product from the factory to the shop floor, from the retail shelf to the customer's house, and then finally the customer being able to use it, tends to be, in terms of closing the loop, tends to be with the customer services department. Imagine if you bought a washing machine. You bought a washing machine from AO.com or Curry's PC World. You go to the shop, you go to the outlet, you choose the machine, you then order it, you want them to deliver the machine and also plumb it or install it for you on a particular date. They come in, they install, they take away the packaging. And at some stage, what happens is that they will demonstrate the usage of the machine to you. And once this is done, the 2-man team or the 3-man team, which has come to install, they will basically look at asking you some questions. If you have any queries, they will answer those queries. And then towards the end, they will basically give you a card to say, thank you for choosing to buy this from us. And if you can spare 2 minutes, can you write a review for us? Or if you're happy with the service, can you rate us on the service? Or you'll be receiving a short survey from the company to confirm the services that we provided. And those tend to be closing the loop. That means most companies are interested in ensuring that once the handover has been done and it has been done to the customer is happy with the information received. At some stage, what they want to do is make sure they capture this feedback, and this is done so that they are aware that, okay, if there are any problems and issues, who they get back to and how they get back to, and that is absolutely, fine. Yeah. So this is one of the reasons why customer service is very important. Now, when we talk about, lots of different strategies and lots of different places where we get to see customer service, we see this in and around us on a daily basis. You go to a grocery store, you think of a situation for now, just think of a quick situation that, okay, you go to a grocery store, you go to, Trafford Center, or you go to, for example, a nice branded outlet, where all and at what all points you'd be receiving customer service. So it starts at the door or the place where you actually start to enter. So in some cases, some outlets, for example, if you go to a Louis Vuitton shop, or if you go to a very expensive premium showroom or a restaurant, you generally see that the doorman or somebody who's at the door would essentially greet you. And that is where the essence of customer service actually starts. So they have started to greet you, they have started to welcome you, and they are welcoming you. If you go to Harrods, for example, when you enter from the main entrance, there are lots of entrances, obviously, but if you enter from any of the entrances, you will generally be greeted by the person standing at the door or the doorman to say good afternoon and, or good evening and whatever. And this is the start of customer service. So depending on the type of business you're in, the business and the service that you're providing or the product you're selling, the business would then have they will have to tune and offer these services accordingly. Now, if you're a retail store, if you're a B2B business, if you're a corporate business or an organization, sometimes you go into a big corporate office and you are at the receptionist would greet you and they say, okay, please take a seat. And then you see huge television or a projector running some sort of history background about, what products the company has, the vision and the mission and things like that. That is where also they are sensitizing you with the messages which the company wants you to look at. And you're listening in, you're seeing some of these messages in some case. And then this is allowing you to understand what product or services the company essentially offers. Now, when we talk about a list of behaviors which employees need to show when they are in customer services department, for example, if I look at John Lewis or if I look at any such store that you go to, you generally see if there are people on the shop floor, what they would do is essentially, if you are looking at products, browsing through it, and if you look around, the persons or the people who are on the shop floor and are part of the sales team, they will first make eye contact. They will ensure that they see you eye to eye, and obviously, are looking at picking up any signal wherein or any sort of hints that your body language is showing in terms of ensuring that how they can start interacting with you. You would also see that sometimes they would nod at you. You nod your head and, you'll ask questions and you'll say, okay, I'm coming, just give me a second. You'll raise your hand. And what people in the customer services department, sales people who are in front ending and the interactions with the customer have to be very patient, compassionate, and not judgmental. They try and look at not using, things which will distract them from offering a good experience to the customer. And they generally, you would see, pay 100% attention to what you're doing or what you're asking them, so that they do not miss out on any of the, things which you are asking, and then are able to direct you, give you guidance or advice, or answer your queries in a very subtle and a detailed way. Now, a lot of research today has clearly shown that customer services is very important. And if businesses are to increase, have to become more profitable, I put up one particular slide from HubSpot, which is a company which is a CRM company, customer relationship management company, or a software company. And they have done a research that why customer services is important. An example of that, which I will give you, is sometimes when you browse the website, you have the chat function which comes up, and you have the ability to be able to chat with the customer or the company. And this is a form of customer service which the company is providing, because sometimes the employees are busy, or obviously if everyone is engaged, then you can actually get in touch with them through the website route, which is the web chat which they introduce. So depending on how you're looking at customers, and how you're looking at acquiring customers, increasing customers in your business, it is important for you to understand the importance of customer service as well. Now, one of the last things which I look at generically covering in terms of the learning outcome and the assessment criteria, is to give you a bit of understanding, is that why is customer service important for our business? This is the main reason of studying this particular learning outcome. Now, there are lots of reasons why customer service is important. Now, customer services in a lot of businesses and in developed countries is important because the population isn't increasing, the market isn't increasing. So it is important for companies to be able to retain their existing customers. So if you are a customer with Mercedes and you've been driving a Mercedes car and you're happy with the Mercedes, what generally you would see is that there'll be newsletters which are coming to you from time to time. There are offers they send across, the Lewis Hamilton promotion offers that they send to you. They do exclusive events for Mercedes-Benz owners. They will ask you to come down to Silverstone to drive your car, or there are lots of things which the companies do. And I'm just giving one such example. Now, why do they need to do all this? The reason they need to do all this is, if you look at Mercedes-Benz, it's an expensive car. There are limited number of customers which are in that economic status to be able to afford that car. So it is very important for the company to be able to retain its existing customers and sell them a new model as and when it is available, which allows them to retain the customer in the ecosystem and derive more revenue from the same customer. So customer services can have different meanings for different companies depending on what products and services they sell. If you go to a Tesco or a Morrison's or an ASDA or Lidl, you obviously shop there, weekly shop you do every off and on. But yes, even today, some of these grocery retailers are looking at switching customers over from Aldi to Sainsbury, or Sainsbury to Tesco, and Tesco to Asda, because when you look at the advert campaigns, they do say that we price match with Aldi or we do price match with Lidl. But the reason is because companies like Tesco, Sainsbury, Waitrose, Morrison's are getting are feeling the pressure of competition from companies like Lidl and Aldi, and they have established themselves as cheaper alternative to some of these supermarket chains in the UK. And in order to maintain its business, in order to sustain its business and a profit, the companies are now having to retort to doing price match for certain products and say that, okay, this basket is similar price or cheaper than what you would buy at Aldi and things like that. So there could be lots of different reasons of customer service and the way the company uses customer service as a function within the business. And I've listed down about a couple of them on the slide, which basically would show, and if we discuss them, it'll prove beyond doubt that why customer service is very important for any business which wants to prosper, and grow and obviously make more profits. One of the first things that we look at is retention of customers is cheaper than acquisition. You look at a lot of companies doing lots of advertising throughout the year, and the advertising is done primarily on TV, print media, billboards, outside flyers, catalogs, and look at the amount of money which companies are spending to gain new customers. Now, it takes a fraction of that cost to be able to retain the customer, provided the customer has been getting good service and you're in regular touch with the customer. And because they're happy with your product and service, it's likely that they will buy your product again. So retention is cheaper than acquiring new customers, because for acquiring new customers, companies need to spend thousands, millions and billions of pounds and dollars in terms of advertising campaigns, experience events and things like that to be able to retain more. Customer service obviously represents your brand image and it represents your values. Tesco's tagline is every little helps. ASDA says some other thing. And the reason why they do it is because the staff is trained in such a way when they work within the stores, and they are, trained to ensure that they are helping each and everyone out, and they are jumping on to helping customers, in order to serve more customers to be able to make or generate more revenues. Sometimes you would see it as the manager or the Aldi, when you go in and you see a lot of customers queuing up on one till, the manager would make a quick announcement on the mic and say, can you jump on this till on till 2, and in order to, help customers out, or, shorten the queue and get them tilling out the products quickly, they will ask them to open new or get onto tills and open them up, so that it basically reduces the wait time for customers at the outlet. So these are all ways through which you can think of why customer service is important. And it is generally very important for any business, because as I mentioned earlier, and it was seen in the video, that customers expect to be served. They expect their queries, questions to be answered. They expect information to be delivered. And in this case, the company which is able to do it effectively, time and again, repeatedly, and in a very efficient and productive manner, would see its business rise, would see its profits rise, would see more customers flocking to the business to be able to buy their products and services. Now, at this stage, what I would do is invite any questions. If there are any questions, have you understood broadly the learning outcome and the importance of customer service and its success? Why is it important to the success of the organization? Any questions on this so far? You can ask me questions through the chat room. You can ask me questions by unmuting a microphone. Any questions at this stage, do let me know. Okay, now let's go across and quickly, look at discussing some of the assessment criteria. And these assessment criteria, the first one is explain the impact of customer service on business success. Now here, I've taken an example of Porterbin case study. Porterbin is a company, or you can take an example of a hotel company or rent a car business, and see how the customers place a preference on, receiving excellent customer service, or if companies have quality built into their motto, that means in their vision and mission, and how they apply this particular concept of quality, that they are going to be able to deliver effective service, efficient customer service to customers, whether they come from A, B, Z, whatever, irrespective of what background, culture, diversity they come from. But when the business is operating in the market, it is going to provide you that service, and that quality of service that they provide, which compels you or to come back to them to buy the product again, to do a repeat purchase, would be, the success of the business. And that is where we will look at some of the parameters in terms of what does it mean, to have a repeat business or have a customer come back to you and stay at the hotel the second time round, or in a way buy the product again or book the hotel again. And that would show the relevance of the customer service. That means the business isn't getting more revenue, they are retaining a customer, the customer is showing loyalty towards the business, they're happy with the service, they're willing to pay the company for the same services. And this creates opportunities to increase revenue from the customer during its course of its lifetime, the time frame in which they would utilize some of these services time and again. So there are lots of reasons in terms of why customer service is important, and this is something that I've explained. Now, what I've done is use the example of Porterbin as a case study. Now, this is a company which primarily, is, let's put it this way, a company which primarily looks at producing lots of different things. And they are a company which is a UK-based company. They are based in Yorkshire. And obviously, what they are into is they build what is called modular building material. That means they are a company which produces, or let's say it produces customer products which could be used in different facets of life. They, for example, it produces construction material. It looks at producing material for the hospitals in terms of beds, trolleys. It produces material which could be used outside, offices in terms of like shelters, and for example, cabins. It is a company which is in engineering, and it produces, what is the best way to describe is, it produces modular buildings from concept to completion. So they are a company which basically are focused on providing and delivering educational facilities. So when you look at a lab or a laboratory in a school or a college, like a chemistry lab, a physics lab, they produce and create materials which go into that. They are looking at producing construction material which are used in the manufacture of homes, houses, offices. They produce, it's a very large company. It produces, equipment which goes into healthcare facilities, offices, things like that. Now, using this particular example, what we want to be able to do is, because it's a company which has been running from 1961, they have been doing things in a certain way, which has obviously made the business successful, largely popular, and something which has grown strength on strength, and it has become a very large, corporation today. Now, keeping this in mind, what we want to be able to look at is understanding why is the company doing well. And one of the factors which came across by reading this case study, which is on Moodle as well, is that the company is focused on providing superlative or the best customer service possible for any type of product that it sells. It is genuinely interested in creating happy customers which look at doing repeat purchases. Repeat purchases lead to better profitability because you're not acquiring new customers all the time. You're looking at, getting more business from existing customers. And last but not the least, they are trying to compete with other companies by producing products which are going to be more environmentally sustainable and which are going to be, cheaper than what the competition is providing without having to compromise on quality. And that is what creates, the core customer experience in the case of Portabin. And the reason why customers keep coming back and buy material from them or buy goods and services from them again is because of this factor that they are producing quality goods and consistently looking at providing discounts or cheaper prices compared to competitors when it comes to buying products on education, health, construction, and office related products from this company. So what I would suggest for this particular task 6.1, you would need to do is look at picking up a company of your choice. It could be a hotel, a car company, any company that we go to, like McDonald's, Subway, or Pret a Manger, and what you have to do is essentially pick up that company and look at the reasons by going onto the website and see why customer service is important for them and how do they provide this service, and why, while providing this services to their customers, how do they look at increasing business, making more profits, and getting more customers or retaining more customers would be the bit in terms of, explaining this particular task. Now, the second task that we want to talk about in the assessment criteria is benefits of customer profiling. Now, one of the things that I talked about initially when I mentioned what is customer profiling is essentially looking at finding out details about the customer preferences, their reasons of buying, the product, their reasons of looking at how they are going to look at getting benefits from the product. And in some cases, they are also trying to find out what drives the customer to make this decision in terms of its interests, what are their buying patterns, your demographic data, and you're looking at, what could be the points which would be sore points that the customers would not consider while they're trying to make a final decision on purchasing that product. Now, all these things are a part and parcel of what is called customer profiling. Now, when we talk about customer profiling is also done from a point of view of looking at, profiling about your age, your income, your location, your hobbies, your habit, your reasons of buying it. And in some cases, they also look at, where are you coming from, your economic status and things like that. And this then tends to explain the benefits of, a customer profiling. So when we talk about different types of customer profiling, first of all, when we look at profiling, we talk about market segmentation. Now, when we talk about market segmentation, what we want to do is, when we look at market segmentation in general and its definition, what we are essentially meaning by that is that we are trying to look at a process through which we are going to divide the consumer broadly into different types of, let's say, dividing the consumer primarily on the basis of their characteristics into some sort of groupings. And these groupings would be 4 different types that we would normally do. They would be geographic groupings, demographic groupings, psychographic groupings, and they would be groupings related to behavioral side of things. Now, when we talk about, these groupings, what we are looking at doing is we are trying to get customers into a particular group to identify their needs and demands in terms of how they would go about buying the product and why would they buy the product. What are the reasons for them to buy the product? And this is done through the process of what is called market segmentation. So market segmentation is nothing but the process of dividing the target audience or customers into groups or subgroups on the basis of their commonalities. That means they would share certain common traits like age, gender, location, their values, their behavior, their culture, the buying decision-making criteria. And when you are trying to group them together because of these commonalities, this is where we would be looking at doing some sort of segmentation. Now, why this is critical is because when you make a marketing plan to sell a product or, to do a promotion, you are going to be looking at effectively determining what are the consumer purchase habits, what are the customers' purchasing habits. And the idea that you know more about the customers' purchasing habits would be, through the process of what is called market segmentation. And as long as you can determine what their purchasing habits are, what ticks them, what helps them make the decision, what kind of price points they would look at buying, and what price they're looking at willing to pay for the product. Now, as long as you know this, then you can position and, let's say you can position those products accordingly so that you are very clear that, yes, you are not trying to sell, ice to an Eskimo. Let me put it this way. So here, if you know that this customer is looking at buying a car, but if you know other details like what kind of car, what is the reasons of buying a car, what is the price points in which the customer would look at purchasing this car, whether they are looking at buying on finance, hire purchase, or PCP, what, how many years they would want to finance it for, what is the background of the customer, how much does the customer earn, and, what would be the main reasons of buying this as a car, for example, and in terms of who would be the main user of the car. Now, if you know all answers to all these questions, it will be very useful for you as a salesperson from a dealership to be able to position a model accordingly to the customer's preferences. Now, if I say I'm looking at buying a car, but my budget is only 10,000, and I'm looking at buying a car wherein I would like to commute on a daily basis from to and from work, I would also occasionally go on a weekly shop with the family. And in most cases, I would be looking at dropping my kids off to school when I use this car now. And you also find out and, do a bit of research to find out who is the customer, what is the income level, where are they living, and, what car they own. Now, if I've owned a Toyota in the past and I've got 2 kids, and obviously I leave them and I drop them off and then I go to work and then I pick them up and then come back home, you are going to get a lot of useful information from this data which has been provided by the customer. Now, this is all possible because of market segmentation. So data like you are looking at using it like a family car. So essentially that would mean that you are going to pick up your kids, going for a weekly shop. These are all going to be things related to, usage as a family. You're going to use it from your workplace. That means it's a basic car which you're going to be using as a vehicle of transport to commute from the place of work to home and home to work, and vice versa. Now, if you're, say, if you also know the information that you're working in a public sector or a private company, and you work as a teacher or you work as a administrator, then that will also give you some background, because you'll be able to do some profiling in terms of finding out what is the average pay for an administrator in a school or a college or a university, and you would know some price bracket or range in which the customer would be looking at buying. Now, when you find out about what is the car the customer owns, are they looking at trading in, buying it on finance, or is it a first car or a second car they're buying? This will give you additional bits of information about who the customer is, where they're coming from, and what kind of money or price point they would be trying to purchase this car. And this will all give you useful information to be able to, if you're a salesman and you have 7 different models in the showroom, you would probably start by matching some of these profiles and the background that you've collected with the nature of the work the person does, and the profile that they have, and income level that they have, and then the size of the family they have, and then you will position the car accordingly. So if you've got 2 kids and you use it for going to work, coming back to work, weekly shop, picking up kids, you would probably say this guy would buy pretty much a sedan. Now, if they're exchanging a car, it'll give you further examples or insight into, okay, they have previously owned a family car, they would be looking at buying a family car. They're not looking at buying an SUV or a 4x4 or a coupe. They are going to be more tuned to buying, and obviously some of these things you would ask questions about, and that would help you in profiling the customer in terms of understanding the background, the behavior, the habits, and obviously help them and then provide information in a way which will be useful for them to make decisions. So market segmentation is very important. Now, when we look at customer profiling, if you are going to be asked a question, how do you look at doing customer profiling? You look at market segmentation, as simple as that. And as long as you're able to explain customer profiling is basically the process through which you're trying to determine customers' age, location, income, and goals, hobbies, habits, buying behavior, and what are the reasons why they're looking at buying this. That would help you position the product or the service appropriately. Now, any questions at this stage? Now, if there are none, that's not a problem. But at this stage, we've got one assessment criteria and merit, which is going to ask us to analyze the impact of customer services on business success. So here, what we have covered in terms of the benefits of customer profiling and the benefits of customer service to a business have to be explained using an example. So here, whichever company or organization you pick up, whether it's a car company, it's a food company, or it's a grocery retailer that you pick up for the purposes of discussing task 6.1, 6.2, you could use the same company to discuss and analyze, the details of, impact of customer services on the business success. And I have used Portabin, so I've used Portabin across in order to ensure that this is consistent and you are able to follow it through. Now, the last criteria is primarily about analysis again, and this is talking how customer profiling helps you deliver customer service. So 6.1 was more related to the merit task of benefits of customer service to a business, and its analysis related to customer service and benefits to the business. 6.2 is about benefits of customer profiling, and the distinction criteria 61 is about again related to the analysis of customer profiling and how it can be used to deliver effective or targeted customer service. So the same example that you take in the case of customer profiling, which I gave you an example of using the example of a car. If you're looking at buying in a car dealership, looks at customer profiling through the process of segmentation, can be used to discuss and analyze the usages of customer profiling for customer services department. So here I would suggest that you take up market segmentation, pick any one of them like demographic, behavioral, psychographic, or geographic, and then use that to be able to show and discuss advantages and disadvantages of customer profiling, and then relate it to the business that you're discussing it with, and that would help you do the analysis in terms of customer profiling and its benefits to customer service. So I would start off by, as I've done on the slide, is basically define what is customer profiling, what is customer profiling process. Now, one of the things which you would be able to relate to when we talk about this analysis is, and when we look at customer profiling is, you'd be able to relate to that when you look at companies which use, for example, say, for example, when they use, the process of using a software like CRM, customer relationship management software, and then in that software, when you have lots of information which is collected, a lot of companies look at, leaving or updating the data, which is collected, on a daily, weekly, quarterly basis, and then they analyze that data, improve that data, clean that data, or, update that data. And this basically is looking at customer profiling. So when we look at data that, for example, a customer has, maybe if you take an example of a car dealership like Mercedes, and Mercedes in Stockport, for example, if they have a database of 10,000 customers, then what they would do at some stage would be the customer services team would be looking at profiling the database. That means how many customers' addresses are correct, their phone numbers are up to date. They know exactly which customers have bought which model, have they replaced it, have they sold it off, have they traded that in for another model outside the Mercedes brand. This is what is going to be customer profiling. And their aim as a customer services department would be to try and see how many customers are coming to an end of 3-year period, 4-year period, end of their lease, end of their HP or their PCP, and then being able to position new products, services to them through newsletters, through advertising campaigns, through calling them up on the phone, or providing that data to their sales team to be able to call them up. That will be the process of customer profiling. And all this is being done primarily to increase business, to get in more business from existing customers. And this is what needs to be explained in terms of this particular task. Now, in order to do so, this requires you to have knowledge about the customer in terms of the segmentation that we do and profiling that we do. So you know their behavior, you know what are the decisions they look at in terms of making a purchase, how they buy it, when they buy it, what is their location, what could be the best and the closest dealership that they can go to see the car, test drive a car, things like that. They will all come across from the profiling that you would do for the customer. And this is trying to find more and more details about the customer's interest, their pain points or pressure points in terms of what takes them to make a decision, or takes them to make a decision which will not be in your favor or go to a competition, or what could be their buying patterns, and obviously their demographic data like income, age, background, and that would help you to understand the customer better in terms of providing a more targeted service. So there are some good useful sites that I would suggest that you need to read a bit more to crystallize this understanding on what we have covered for Learning Outcome 6. And I would suggest that you go across to the Business Case Studies website. You also go across to, the HubSpot website, which is an article on the importance of customer service, and then looking at reading about, how companies actually collect data to be able to profile their customers and then, target them for, depending on their background and suitability of the products by doing segmentation and detailed customer profiling. So if I switch you over and show you these 3 websites, which I would suggest is that you go across and read for more details, would be very, very useful. So one of the first things that I've put across is, a case study, which is the importance of excellent customer service. And there are examples of Portobin, Vodafone, and Tesco here, which allow you to understand, in this particular case study, that why is it important, for the companies to have excellent customer service. Then I've taken an example of a software company called HubSpot. And they are a global company. They're based in the US. They are quite a big company in terms of $3-4 billion in terms of their turnover. And this particular blog talks about the importance of customer service they place within the organization, and how do they retain customers, how they are able to grow the business. And this will give you some more insights into why retention is important for them, as in terms of, and that can only be done, retaining the customer can only be done by them if they are providing excellent service, because service for them is a product. Service for SaaS. I don't know how many of you have actually heard of the term, SaaS, which is software as a service. So software because HubSpot is a software and they sell software which customers use to manage their customer data as customer. Then that software is called customer relationship management, and they are in the business of essentially selling or providing subscription-based services using software as a service. And that is why this particular article reflects on why it is important for them to profile the customer, because they don't physically sell any product, or they have a physical product. It is mostly intangible product like a software, which once gets installed, customers use it through the website or the browser, and then they use it to get more information about the customer and target them about specifically related to products and services that they are interested in selling to them on the basis of segmentation. And the last important website which I've covered here is market segmentation, which is very important for you to understand the 4 types of segmentation, why grouping is done, why do we need to look at profiling the customer according to their demographic, psychographic, and also on the basis of their, behavioral patterns, because what we want to do is understand how decision-making process works for them, and then accordingly give them information on those bases so that they are able to make a positive decision towards your company and not the competitor to be able to buy the product. So these sites would be very important in terms of understanding the basis of segmentation, the types of different market segmentation, and how does it help the company profile the customer, and then that helps the company target the customer with specific information about products and services that they can afford and they can buy, and then it allows the company to sell those services to the customer themselves. Now, this is where we complete this first particular unit, which is the how businesses operate as a unit. And next week, we are going to be looking at doing a bit of assignment discussion in terms of collating the evidence for this particular unit. How would you go about doing the assignment? So if you have any questions at this stage, feel free to ask me. And what I will do is obviously, you can also send me an email, and that will allow me to send you additional data and information about how you can go about, ensuring that you have all the information related to this unit with regards to starting and completing the assignment. Now, we are going to be meeting next week on Wednesday, and that will be to discuss the assignment brief. But what I'm going to do is email the assignment brief to you, all of you, so that you can actually read it beforehand. And when we see each other next time, we are going to be discussing that in a bit more detail in order to produce and, let's say, start doing the assignment for this particular unit. So at this stage, again, one last opportunity to everyone to be able to ask any questions if you have, and I'll be more than happy to, provide additional information via the email or here when if there is any point, any area of discussion that you have not understood. So let me start one by one. Ask Syed, any questions at your end? Any questions at your end? Heather, Rashida, Taylor, any questions at your end? Mohsen, Shabir, any questions? Any questions so far? Okay, good stuff. That means everything is well understood. Everything that I'm teaching and delivering is very well understood by everyone, which is very good. If you think of any, feel free to drop me an email at litc@ukversity.co.uk, and I will catch up with you next week. So up until then, take care and do some additional reading as I've suggested on these websites, which is also going to be up on Moodle. And if should you need to visit or revisit any of the recordings of the session, they're available on the YouTube channel. So you can visit the YouTube channel and obviously look for and search for the learning outcome under the videos section. And this is learning outcome 6. So signing off for today, and we'll catch you next week to discuss the assignments. Take care and bye.